Beverly is basically a story of a mixed-race teenager growing up in Leicester in 1980.
The film is partly based on my teenage experience when I moved from a predominantly black community to white suburbia, and what that was like during that time when there was a lot of unrest, political, social, economical.
The backdrop to the film is the cultural movement of two-tone, which is obviously very symbolic of a kind of hybrid culture, if you like. It's exploring identity, and race is obviously a part of it, but for me I like to think of it much more as about British identity.
Met the director and writer for making some short films. Alex has been winning quite a few awards with his films.
I shot a couple of little web things, little web series, track teasers really, with a guy called Johnny Owen and Welsh Pete Jones. We shot in the pub. Cass was kind of, you know, not lived in, but he kind of worked in the office upstairs, and he let us shoot it, and he was a kind of cameo in both those films.
Hold on boys, Wickham, ain't that London?
And then Cass was going to make Casuals, and he asked Johnny, is there anybody you'd recommend who could help me make Casuals, and he suggested me.
We come across two casual girls, and you know, I said, was there any casual girls? Because I've never come across them in my time, you know what I mean? And there's one from Wales and one from Leicester. And the one from Leicester, they said you must interview this Beverly, you know, she was a full-on casual back in the day.
I wouldn't get involved in sort of any of the violence or the physical side of it, but I was very much one of the boys. I wasn't seen as a girl, and I kind of liked that. So like when I started wearing akascutum, I didn't know of hardly any guys that wore akascutum, so I like to be sort of the first one in there, you know, and being a girl and wearing sort of the female range kind of made me feel like I stood out, you know, in the crowd even a bit more, because there was no other female I knew at the time that was wearing labels.
Me, Cass and Bev got on the train up to Leicester. You know, we just did a lot of talking about Babylon, the film, and various things, you know, the 80s, Bev's experiences growing up.
So I suppose I was reminiscing about my time growing up whilst I lived in Leicester as a teenager, and we were talking about the sort of two-tone music scene, the specials, the beat selector, and what that represented. I remember the first time I'd seen him on the telly, it was the first time I'd seen a black and white mixed group playing music with a bit of a reggae undertone, and I was really able to identify with the lyrics and also just the appearance of the group. At the time there was very few mixed race people around, so I had no sort of role models or anybody else's experience to bounce off.
And she turned around and just said, my story is two identities. So I said, two identities? What do you mean by two identities? So, well, the first one is I'm mixed race white. So the first battle, as soon as I'm born, you know, do I go white, do I go black? Once I've sorted that, I've still got the battle, the second identity, to be accepted as British. She said, I wasn't always a football casual, so what was she? She said, I was a rude girl.
Definitely at the time, both me and Cass were like, wow, this is interesting stuff. But I didn't necessarily click and think to myself, I'll make a film about this, you know. It was much more Cass.
I just couldn't get it out of my head, because when I went home, I realised I'm a father of mixed race kids. And that's the link as well, because you can always talk about the past, but what's it mean to today's generation that's moved on? You know, it's 2010, 2011, so, you know, Tottenham riots is almost like going back to the 80s. National Front then instead of the EDL. You know what I mean? So I finally had that 80s thing. I thought, who brought people together? Because it certainly weren't Thatcher, and it certainly weren't the powers that be, because there weren't no laws like it was today with political correctness and all that. You know what I mean? There was none of that. So who brought people together? So I realised it was the people, and then people were musicians, and they were the specials.
Once the music got through the thick skull of some of the National Front, and they knew, oh, this is nice music, we can dance to it. Not thinking it came from Jamaica, and it was black musicians. Then it started interwinding into blending in. So then you started getting a lot of skinheads moving over and listening to ska.
Two-tone was a distinctly kind of political, well, I don't know about movement, but a cultural force. You know, it had political things to say, the lyrics were political, etc. It was quite conscious of that, and it came from a position of disaffected youth and so on, and I think that has relevance today, very much so. I mean, obviously the youth of today, we've got high unemployment like we did then. Not long ago we had riots and all, you know, things that are happening that were happening back then. So I think there's big echoes to today. And Cass kind of turned around and said to me, look, I want us to make a kind of two-tone film on a mixed race girl. And I was like, okay, I don't know too much about it though. And he was like, do what writers do, research.
We kind of came up with the idea of a script and something quite unique, something about being mixed race and British. What does that mean, being black and British, being mixed race and British? Is there a difference? And also the impact of a two-tone movement.
A lot of what she said, you know, identity aspects of it, I did very much relate to, and you know, realised that this is something I could definitely do, and had, you know, much more interest in it than I'd originally thought I would have. You know, it was definitely a powerful story, something that needs to be told, and yeah, I could, you know, see the kind of social appeal from my perspective, the commercial appeal, and obviously with Cass, who's got to be the most passionate person I've ever met driving it, you kind of know that you've got like a force of nature behind you to make it all happen, you know.
Normally in films, as it was before, to be a film investor, you've got to be talking 50 grand and that kind of level, you know, serious money, big business people. The ordinary person couldn't get involved in the film. But what I like about crowdfunding and Kickstarter, anyone can be involved from £1 upwards.
It also helped to prove that there was a community of people who were really interested in the story, and you know, to engage that community. Got a big following on Facebook.
Word had got out. We had people from like Prince Buster's son from America picking up on Beverly and inviting her to do interviews on radio shows in America through links. And bands like Melbourne Skull Orchestra in Australia were sending us tapes saying we were hearing about Beverly. So all this interest started coming up, you know, the two-tone village picked up about it, it just got bigger and bigger, and we thought, there's no going back now, you know, we can't let all these people down, you know. And it's just really people power, and for me, that is good filmmaking, you know. Don't say you can't do it, don't look at the times and say how hard it is, just go out there and do it.
So we ran a bunch of auditions, both in London and in Leicester. We did probably 2-3 days in London and at least one full day in Leicester. Saw a lot of people. There was a lot of really talented actors came through in the Leicester auditions that from Nottingham Television Workshop. Absolutely, like everybody I saw from there was incredible, and that's where we found Senia as well as some of our gang. We also thought, look, there's not many roles for, you know, mixed race girls, lead roles, you know, going basically, and we thought we might as well aim high in trying to attract really good people to the project. That, you know, we were confident in the script, we were confident in the story, we were confident that we could make a good film. So we thought let's aim high. So we kind of went through all the people we could find, you know, on IMDb and everywhere else, using all the resources we could to kind of get a list together. And Leia Lewis was always the one that stuck out for me. I mean, she looked a lot like Bev. She seemed to have the same attitude. Obviously, I watched Skins, you know, the series that she was involved in, and thought she'd be a great fit.
It's very close to home because I think I grew up sort of having the same sorts of feelings as she does, sort of like, you know, what am I in terms of race? Where do I kind of slot in? So I just really liked that they were covering a subject about what it was like to be mixed race. It's not something you see often.
Once we got Layla, for who can play our mum, so we just sort of write in a paper, we look at each other, me and Alex, and we write in a paper, who do you think? You know what I mean? Put some names down. Who do you think? Put some names down, yeah? They both come with the same name, Vicky.
I was like, if I could have anybody who would have Vicky McClure, well, you know, you're not going to get Vicky McClure for a short film realistically, but somehow we did.
I got involved with this purely down to the fact that I liked the script, and Bev, whose story it is that we're creating, you know, is an amazing woman with an incredible story. After
getting Vicky to play Beverly's mother, we needed someone to play the West Indian mystery villain, or is he a villain? You know what I mean? This face. And Winston was always there.
And he sent me the script, and I looked at it and I thought, this is fantastic, you know what I mean? Because I think there's just so much depth to where this can go. And this is one of those kind of films that asks a lot of questions, do you know what I mean? And I think it's something that's very close to my heart because I grew up in that era, I knew what it was like. So once I just read the synopsis and I saw the breakdown, I thought, you know what, I've got to do this. This is something that I have to do.
There's a few like experienced actors, 2, arguably 3 very recognisable names, which kind of stand out and leap out of the page. And the rest of the cast is a lot of first timers, and that's an interesting, you know, mix because you've got the professionalism, you've got the people that are on the ball, but you've also got something that's really fresh and natural.
Obviously, being from Leicester, being brought up here, for me, growing up as a mixed race person, having like white friends and then black friends, and then you sort of see like their parents' views and like the subtle little looks and sort of stereotypes that follow up with that. For me, it was really important to want to get involved with it, because growing up in the 90s, it was sort of still a bit of a confusing time to sort of know where you stand with your identity amongst other people. And obviously it was a lot more brutal in the 80s with like the NFs and skinheads and everything.
What a cost, you know, and what people don't realise, it's a short film, so no one's doing it for money. And for me, that's a powerful statement for the people I believe in, like Alexander Thomas.
Alex has been really, really calm. You know, he's got the script in his head. It's solid, and he knows where he is every time. So, you know, that's all you can ask for a director, is, you know, to know exactly where he wants you, what he's trying to achieve out of every scene, and all the characters. And his notes have always been brilliant. Yeah, he's a joy to work with. You know, he's relaxed. There's no panic, and he's kept things moving really well. And he's got real passion for what he's doing, and for the film and the story, and you know, the narrative and all that kind of stuff. So he's doing it really well.
He's one of these kind of guys that he knows what he wants, and he allows the actors to bring their own element to the table as well. So you can actually delve into, you know, questioning him and say, listen, what about doing this, or what about doing that? He loves your ideas, and he lets you work that way. You know what I mean? I think that helps to make the whole project a lot better. You know what I mean? It makes everything gel a lot more.
He's great when I need those notes, because sometimes I do need a bit of a push, because you get tired, and especially because I'm in every scene and you kind of like, do you forget what you're sort of doing? So he's been great for the times when you just need a little like nudge in the right direction, and he's brilliant, and he's so passionate about it all.
I think he's a really talented director. He knows what he's talking about. He understands the language of cinema. He's listening to his crew and cast, and that is the best thing, I think.
He makes you feel like he's on the same level as you as an actor, and he's all around, and he's sort of hand on the shoulder. Obviously, he instantly brings you in, and he makes you feel the level of what we're trying to bring in the scene, and he makes it easy for you. He gives you a few directional notes, but it allows you to bring your own spin on it, and it's just a nice, relaxed environment.
You know, because obviously it's my first job, I'm a bit like, is that okay? Did I do it right? Do you want me to do anything differently? But he's always there when after a take to say, oh, okay, let's try this, let's try that.
Oh, I mean, Alex he's a kind of director that's calm, considerate, but very kind of precise in his instruction. That's kind of, you know, just what you need, really.
You know, you look at the script and you look at the way that he's trying to sort of put it to us all. I think it's very, very visual, very to the point. A breath of fresh air to people that wouldn't know about that time.
It's quite an ambitious film. We've got 15 speaking parts. We've got 7 story days, so that's multiple costume changes. We've got 35 scenes, which in theory is 35 setups. It's not literally that, because you go back to different locations, but the different locations are all on different days. So there's a big deck of cards to shuffle, and just trying to fit it into the schedule that we've got is just, the whole thing is ambitious. You know, we've got day shoots, we've got night shoots.
There's a lot of film being made in London, obviously, and we were keen to kind of branch out and to show different parts of the UK. And to be honest, with the two-tone thing, it felt like a Midland story. And then obviously it being Leicester, it just felt far more authentic to shoot it in the Midlands. So it was always our plan to source as many people locally as we could. We did get some students, some keen runners, some makeup artists, various bits and bobs from Leicester, the second AD, who was also a kind of production coordinator.
You know, it's such a great project. The talent involved in terms of the cast and the crew, the story, Cass as a producer, it's kind of a no-brainer really for me. So
thematically, red, white and blue was obviously going to be an important thing, and I'd written into the script certain scenes where those colours had a prominence, and then for the gig scene we kind of wanted that to all be encompassed in one, so that was kind of the thinking of that.
I think Alex already knew what he wanted, but I think he was really open to ideas and to my approach to the film.
Paul and I sat down before the film and talked about films we liked, films we wanted to make it look like, etc. True Detective was a big influence. I know Paul had been watching that recently and was very keen on the oranges and browns and that kind of 70s feel.
To get that brown look, we wanted to combine the yellow from the Jamaican flag and the red from the British flag and try to make it, find production design and lighting, make it very, very brown and warm, but not in a romantic way.
Generally, the Rude Girl outfits generally consist of like the two tones, the blacks and whites, the blocking colours, which is generally inspired from like the specials around that era. So you can see she loves her loafers, she loves the white socks, and that's how she develops more in Oldby. But in the beginning, it's more of a Afrocentric because she's generally around a lot more coloured and more multicultural people. But as she moves away from that, she goes more into the Caucasian sides and the popular bands at the time.
Young people they bounce from one thing to another, like in a matter of days. They're always changing their styles.
Wearing this gear, I love it. Like, I wasn't really a fan of vintage stuff, but I've been to a few vintage fairs like in the run into this, and I thought I'll grab a few items just to sort of feel comfortable. I love it. Look, I'm in double denim. When am I going to get a chance to walk around in double denim? It's not going to happen again.
We're set back in the 80s and the clothes are probably quite current now, some of them. You probably see people in Shoreditch wearing them.
I love the subject matter, and I love that it involves kind of two-tone ska music and just, young people and the trials and tribulations of being 16, because it wasn't easy, not at the time anyway.
I mean, I think it's a worthy film in the sense that it's interesting, it's about stuff, it's not an action film. We're not trying to just sedate people with explosions and images. We're trying to make people think, engage their emotions. We're trying to tell an important story about history, about identity. We're trying to do that in a very sort of visual and cinematic way.
Creatively, I think it's absolutely brilliant how we've captured, that time and me at that age. It is like looking back, back in time at how I was at that period.
When it's a short film and you're on a low budget, you've got to pull the strings, and everybody that's working on this is doing that. Everyone's working long hours, really hard, trying to move mountains, and they're doing it, and it's happening, and they're creating, an amazing film from it. But it is thanks to people on the streets that are just letting us sort of use their houses and whatever else we need.
Even where we're interviewing now, someone's house. It's not Pinewood Studios. It's a knock on the door. What do you want? We want to film in your house. Why? Well, we got this story, Beverly, and everyone just, wow. Taxi drivers pick us up, and Beverly, even the bus driver the other day, I jumped on a bus and, oh, so you're the ones making this, Beverly. The whole of Leicester's picking up with it, not just Leicester, all the Midlands are picking up on it. And with the Facebook, they're following us from everywhere. It really is incredible.
We did have incredible help from a lot of people in Leicester as well. So the people helped us out a lot. We had a lot of kindness and goodwill showered upon us, which really helped.
It's another thing now. My head's going fuzzy. The support I got from around the world. But it's so fucking British.